Hey, thanks, Sam, and hello, everybody. We're here today to discuss two proposals that have come out from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And, they have begun to embark on what really is an interconnected web of rulemaking. None of the things can be discussed or really understood in a vacuum. These are the first two to come out, and we've elected to discuss them both in the context of this webinar today. I can't think of adjectives that seem grand enough to describe what a game changer some of these Dodd-Frank mandated rulemaking proposals really are. Huge and major, just don't cover it, but I guess they'll have to do. The first proposal that we're going to talk about today the first proposal they came out with is the mortgage disclosure simplification rule, the integrated disclosures, and then the second dealt with high-cost mortgages and homeownership counseling amendments. The CFPB is essentially reinventing the mortgage disclosure process. They're rethinking it almost from scratch. And I have to say, from what we've seen so far, the way they're doing it is very methodical, very strategic. So what we're going to do today is paint with a broad brush in broad strokes, because the way I tend to learn best, and I think many of you are like this too, is you want to know what the big picture is. Okay, what are they doing in general? What are the big changes that are going to be made? So it's a high-level review, but we're going to key in on the most significant changes, and we're going to talk about how it's organized and a little bit about the forms. The CFPB's website keeps getting better and better, so the website address is on page 2, so you can follow up and get the proposals from there. But, Jack, let's just plunge in and start talking about RESPA to begin with.
Okay. Well, the next couple of pages just kind of give you the citations. Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, the regulation, and with all these changes, I've talked to some people that, well, Reg X is going away, right? Well, they've gutted it, but actually it's going to survive. There's still going to be a few little scraps of Reg X. It's still going to be out there. So it's still the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. Reg X is still there. The big chunks of it, the Good Faith, the HUD-1, the Settlement Cost Booklet, they're all being moved over to Reg Z. And, folks, I guess there's three ways they could have gone with this. They could move it from RESPA to Reg Z. They could have moved Reg Z stuff over to Reg X, or they could have come up with a new regulation. And I don't know. I mean, any of them would have been burdensome. Folks, it is really getting pretty ridiculous how huge Reg Z is getting. I mean, they've added huge provisions over the last couple of years. There we go. Huge, huge. Mary Beth, help me with some more adjectives here. I'm running out of. But they made all those changes to opening credit. That added a ton of stuff to Reg Z. And then they've added various things, the compensation rules, appraisal rules, all that stuff that went into effect April 1st of last year. Now they're bringing all the RESPA stuff over. I mean, I pity the person who has to study Reg Z from scratch. They've never studied it, and you're going, oh, my God, thousands of pages of stuff. It's just crazy. Mary Beth, the other day I was doing a seminar, and, of course, with all these changes coming out, I'm already dealing with live audiences talking about this stuff. But I held a little impromptu poll of the audience. I said, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being I love them and the 5 being I hate them, how do you feel about the CFPB? 1 be I love them, 2 I kind of like them, 3 I'm kind of neutral on them, 4 not particularly fond of them, 5 I absolutely hate them. And nobody gave them a 1, 2, or 3. There were a few 4s, most of them were 5s. They hate the CFPB. And the purpose of my poll here is I'm kind of I was given a benefit of the doubt, so it's kind of a 3, but I'm strongly moving into a 2 position. And I'm not loving them yet, but I'm starting to like them a little bit.
Well, Jack, I have to say the same thing. The task that they have in front of them is just gigantic, and the complexity, the scope is enormous, and they are really rising to the challenge. And they are staffing up with people who have a lot of expertise and experience, and it shows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you ask me what I think of Congress, solid 5. I hate them. I mean, that's where all these changes are coming from. They're coming out of Congress. CFPB is just dealing with the mess they were dealt. They can't really help it. But there's a couple of things in here that they're doing that I do kind of like. There's a couple of disclosures that I've hated them since the day I saw them. There's one of them. It's in the loan estimate disclosure. Another one is in the closing disclosure. I'm still working to get those terms down in my mind. But they're one of them. Both of these weird disclosures that Congress came up with. They're using their interpretive authority and proposing to eliminate it. Believe me, I'm writing a comment letter and say, please, please, please get rid of them. They're dumbest things ever. So we see them doing that. They're playing around with the dates. I know you're going to talk about dates a little later, or effective dates. They're playing around, trying to do it in a smart fashion. Congress tied their hands there on some of those dates. So, I mean, there's a few things they're doing where they're trying to make this better. And, I keep reminding myself and the rest of the world, they are the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's their mission. But they haven't lost sight of our industry either, and I think they're trying to do the right thing. So on page 3, RESPA still RESPA. Page 4, Truth in Lending and Reg Z, they still are what they are, but they're growing, they're expanding, they're adding just tons and tons more. On page 5, they did revise the purpose of Truth in Lending to bring in the concepts of settlement costs that are now here. So I put those words in italics to ensure the consumers are provided with greater and more timely information on the nature and cost of the residential real estate settlement process. So, expanding the scope a little bit. Now, Mary Beth, over on page 6, we really get into it here. We start talking about the high-cost mortgage provisions and the homeowner counseling provisions. There are really a couple of requirements there, but they did them in one release. So what's the story?
Well, I'm glad that the people who are listening because I think there are probably some people out there who are thinking, oh, well, we've never made any of those high-cost mortgages, so we don't have to worry about that. And when they think about homeownership counseling, they think of the requirement that's been in existence for many years that requires a notice of the availability of homeownership counseling to be sent to people who become delinquent on their mortgage loan. So what you need to know, first of all, is when we talk about high-cost mortgage, of course, we're talking about mortgages under HOEPA, the Homeowners Equity Protection Act, that has been implemented by Section .32 of Reg Z, which is now one of the Bureau's regs. So instead of being 226.32, it's 1026.32. Another thing that takes a little bit of work to remember for me. I guess I'm getting old. But the high-cost mortgage provisions and then the homeownership counseling had been under RESPA, under HUD's Reg X. So the first thing to know is that they're expanding what will be covered as a high-cost mortgage. So you may not have made them before, but under the rule as it becomes finalized, you may find that you're making some high-cost mortgages under HOEPA because they're going to change the triggers, they're going to expand the triggers, and then they are implementing a new counseling requirement. And unlike the old homeownership counseling, which will still stay in force, this is kind of a wellness approach by Congress and the CFPB. instead of waiting until somebody is in